Hello everyone, it is Sunday night and we are at Bat City Comic Professionals in Bradenton, Florida, which means it is time to wind down your weekend, or I guess I should say your last 2 weekends. We are going to be talking about this monstrosity of comic books. There's so many of them, and then some. It has been a busy 2 weeks, and we didn't get to talk about comics last week, so I'm very excited to go through all of these with you. We're going to try to lightning round as many of them as we can, so you can see everything you may have missed in the last 2 weeks and find some new favorite titles. As always, I am Shannon, aka Small Press Shann, your host for the night, and I am, because I'm lightning rounding and I'm not going to be drinking as much throughout the show, I brought a tiny bottle of La Marca sparkling wine to make an incredible mimosa out of, and this bottle of La Marca was actually given to me by our good friend Christy, who runs Your Honeycomb just across 9th Street from us. She is awesome and amazing, and this was a gift for me speaking at the TEDx conference earlier, I guess last month now. Wow, it's been so long. So thank you, Christy. I know you usually watch the show, so thank you for your support, and thank you for being a great part of our neighborhood and community. And I'm really excited to take a drink of my mimosa because I love mimosas. It barely tastes like orange juice, just the way I like it. So I'm going to be drinking that every time I actually take a drink and a breath throughout this. I'm also going to let everybody know that we are live to talk about comic books. So let me pull this up right now, and I'm going to share this with the world. That's me talking. I'm sorry. That's a distraction. Comics for everyone. All right, we are going to tune into that all together, and then we are going to talk. And I have so much. I was just at New York Comic Con. There's so much to talk about that, but you just saw my gigantic stack of books. So if you want to know about my time at New York Comic Con, you can check out our Instagram at Bat City Comic Books, where I posted a little recap, or you can come by the store and chat about it. There's all kinds of fun, crazy stories we had. But again, thank you to Comics Pro and Read Pop for having me out there to be a part of the retailer day on the industry day on that Thursday. It was super awesome. And thank you to all of the amazing publishers and creators and everybody who met with us and other store owners, because it was awesome. And can't wait to see you all again soon. I'm going to dive into these comics, but before I do, just a reminder, this Saturday, October 28th, from 11 to 5, is our Bat-tastic Halloween. Come get free comics, come get free candy, come get a sale on all of the non-free comics, meet some comic artists and creators, and bring your costumes, wear your costume, and enjoy getting ready for Halloween with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's from 11 to 5 this Saturday, October 28th, here at Bat City. Come join us. It's going to be a blast. All right, we're going to do this. We're going to see how fast I can do this. Start your clocks now, everybody. We'll see. All right, first up, we've got Grimm issue 14 from Boom Studios. I had to bring this out because it's perfect for the holiday season. But if you haven't been reading Grimm, this is a story about a girl who finds out that she's a Grim Reaper, and she has some very big connections to the main Grim Reaper. And she is currently trying to solve the problem of the fact that nobody can die and nobody is going to hell because there's been like a hostile takeover of the afterworld, and it's up to her to restore this balance and bring back an afterlife for everybody and kind of just get us back on track with that. But in the process, she is also figuring out who she is, where she comes from, what her connections are to the underworld, and how she can help usher people through the dead. And if you haven't read it, there is a volume 1 trade paperback of the first few issues. Now's the perfect time to do it. It's so Halloween-y. It's great. Kaya, issue 12 from Image Comics. This is all about a girl who thought that she was the chosen one, only to find out that it was actually her younger brother. And she is now set to protect him because all of her village has been wiped out. And so she is taking him to a place where he can be trained on how to become the magical golden child that he's supposed to be. And as they are working their way through that, they have managed to get attacked by every other person, every other creature that they could possibly do. And recently, Kaya's brother was kidnapped, and so she has been working to get him back. And now that she has him, it's just a matter of, can she keep him safe from the next great force that's coming after him, trying to stop this golden child from saving the world from their own personal destruction. You should definitely check this one out. Also has a trade paperback for the first arc. If you are looking forward to getting into it, you can jump in that way. And then this is actually going to be the end of this arc and leading us towards yet another trade paperback to come soon. Earth Divers has launched its next time of trying to save the world. This is Earth Divers 1776. This is technically issue 11 of Earth Divers, or issue 1 of this arc. And if you haven't jumped into that, this is actually a great place to do it because they do recap everything that happened in the first and second arc in here and tell us all about how this is a story of people who are trying to figure out how to stop America from destroying the world, and how it hasn't, maybe it's because Christopher Columbus came to America, maybe that was the starting point, maybe there was something else, and so these people have tried to go back in time to find the point in which they can stop it, and as they have not successfully been able to do that just yet, they have once again jumped to another time, which is 1776, because maybe if they can stop America from its full founding, they can stop the world from being destroyed in the future. We're going to find out. The Ice Age didn't do it. The time of Columbus didn't do it. Is 1776 the solution, or is America always set to be the destruction of the entire world? Find out in Earth Divers. Murder Inc. This is the Jagger Rose story. It's issue 6, and this is from Dark Horse, and this is the final chapter, I guess I should say, of this story arc. If you've never read Murder Rose before, it is about a woman who works as essentially the lead assassin, the second in command to the Don of a mafia family that works directly with the Pope. And in this series, we have seen that she has been taken from the second in command to the new Donna of this mafia family. And as somebody who's always been a second in command, she's seen all the interworkings of the mafia and knows that you can't trust anybody. And so she has come up with her own plan on how to not only take out all of the other mob bosses, but maybe actually get the world under her control all in one fell swoop. And so you are following along as she goes through this journey in this 6-part series. So this is a great one if you love those crime boss stories and you just want to see a girl be really, really awesome in it and work some stuff out. And you get that Michael owning art, which is really cool. If you liked Blue Book, it's the same artist on that, and so you get those weird color palettes and the cool designs. Local Man, issue 6 from Image Comics. This is your modern version of a 90s comic for sure. This is all about Crossjack, who was a member of Third Gen, the standard superhero team of all 90s comics, and he is fired from the team and sent back to just be on his own and be a normal human. He's like actually got copyright laws that say he can't even wear a mask and do any kind of superheroing, which of course he in the first arc of the story has completely disregarded that to save the day. And we kind of see that classic you can't go home story, except you've got it for somebody who's a superhero. And in the end of Arc 1, we saw him kind of take down some bad guys that were taking over his town. But now we know that, as always, people are the worst bad guys that there are. And so he's solved the problem that he thought he had with some supernatural people, but now he's got to deal with regular humans who just think that the #truth is not the truth that is the real truth, and they are coming to fight because they want to avenge their superhero who stood for true American values in a way that they can fight. So it's really great. There's also, I forgot to tell you, a backup story in every issue. Usually it is about one of the superheroes, and you get that like 90s comic. This one gives actually a background story for a human who we've been following in the town. So you always get 2 stories in Local Man. The Savage Strength of Starstorm, issue 6, also from Image Comics. This is the story of a teenage boy who just kind of wants to feel like he has something to offer the world, and then suddenly he gets this massive super-powered weapon like attached to him, and he becomes a superhero, and immediately everything in the world goes to crap because people from other galaxies are coming to take back this weapon, and he's the only one that can stop it, but he doesn't know how. So him and his friends kind of gang up together, and as the people are coming, like the whole of Earth gets enslaved, and he's like, is this my fault? And so he has to kind of figure out who he wants to be and if he's going to be a hero and how he's going to get to being a hero. He kind of leads his friends to some moments where they get to have some big superpowered changes in their own lives, and we kind of see these teenagers really build up their own team and get kind of, again, like almost like a 90s superpowered moment in the modern style of comic telling. Something Epic, issue 6, also from Image Comics, and if you know me, you know this is literally labeled Shann's pick in the store because this is one of my favorite comics on the shelf right now. We are 1 issue away from the final issue of this arc, so I still think you should come in and grab the individual issues, though, because it's so good and you need the time to devour each one. This is kind of your last action hero style story. It is about a boy who, as a child, he was able to see the world that was created by other people's imaginations, and all of those things that we create in our minds, they come out and live fully in the world. And he is able to not only see all of them, but interact with them, and that makes him what's called an epic. And after losing a lot of things in his childhood, he kind of becomes really turned off to the idea of imagination and a really angry person. And now as an adult, he's the only person that can save the imaginary world as this epic. But unfortunately, what we see in this issue is when he goes to battle, he's going to have to be able to put aside a lot of his own darkness and anger if he's going to actually be able to build a world that's a better world for anybody, nonetheless, the imaginary creatures that he's interacted with over time. It's a really beautiful story. We get so much, like, what is art and how does art impact us and how does it make a difference in the world around us and how do we as humans get to create that and command this world. And I'm so excited. This book is fantastic. It's all one writer and one artist, and there's so many different styles in it, so it just continues to be a beautiful story that adapts in front of you. Good Deeds, issue 5 from IDW and their Dark Spaces imprint. This story for my Floridians takes place in St. Augustine, Florida, so you should grab this if you know that there is, you know, a really haunted city in our midst, the oldest city in America, honestly. And this is the story of a journalist who has failed at her career. She mistold a story. She took information from somebody who was lying, made a whole story out of it, which came out really bad for her. And so now she's kind of trying to recover by doing these cheesy beats, and she gets sent out to St. Augustine to cover, like, their celebration of, you know, being this old city. And while she's there, she meets a mother and a daughter type group who have just moved to town to take over a diner. And there's a lot of really creepy things, whether they're from the people or whether they're from something weird going on in the town. That's a big spoiler. She's kind of connected to them very quickly, and they are trying to solve some big mysteries together. And we are going to see what I thought that going into this issue, I was going to have all of the answers. And now at the end of this issue, I was like, I don't even know if I knew what was going on before this issue. So really good murder mystery with a little creepy feel to it. So check out Good Deeds. Tenement, issue 5 from Image Comics and the Bone Orchard Mythos, which is Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino's shared universe for everything from Gideon Falls to The Passageway to 10,000 Black Feathers and now Tenement. I'm just going to open up with this crazy page. This is the story of an apartment building and the tenants that live in it, and one of them, an old man, tells one of the youngest tenants, and they're a child, that something dark and bad is coming, and then he just disappears. And now these 10 different apartments of people are trapped, and they're like the only people left in this building, and they can't get out of the building, and it keeps leading them into like darker spaces, like possibly like the 7 circles of hell. And every time they think that they are getting out, they just kind of end up in somewhere that's darker and creepier. And this is one of the first times that I've seen them actually use the phrase Bone Orchard Mythos in any of the stories to kind of start to tie that whole world and universe together. And so I think that by the end of this, we're going to get like maybe some more clues that'll lead us into what it is exactly that Jeff Lemire and Sorrentino want to create out of this. But the good thing is that none of the books connect. They're all just in the same world of horror. You don't necessarily have to read any of the other stories to read what's going on. And I know whenever people put those shared universe titles on there, it's always like really confusing. Should I read everything or not? You don't have to, and this one's honestly just a really good horror thriller for the week, the holiday. Click, Click, Boom, issue 5 from Image Comics, another one of my favorite stories on the shelf right now, and this is the end of it. This is kind of like a young girl who is like kind of a memento kind of thing, because it's a young girl who she cannot speak, and the only way that she communicates herself is through Polaroid pictures. And she, at the very beginning, we see her robbing what looks like she's like holding up a bank essentially, and she's got all of these Polaroids that she leaves around, and we learn that there's something that she's like a message she's trying to communicate. And we learn all that from a podcaster who wants to be like the biggest investigative journalist in the world. And those two kind of team up, and over the course of the time we've learned that this young girl was raised by her grandfather and somebody murdered him, and now she is on a revenge mission to take out all of them. And the two girls work together to see what they can do to make that happen. And I love the connection and the family like element that they bring together between the two of them by the end of this story. It's so good. Definitely check it out. In Hell We Fight, issue 5 from Image Comics. Also the wrap-up of this, at least for now. They said it's going to be the end of the first arc. We may see some more come back. I hope we do, because you've definitely left us on a big cliffhanger here. But this is the story of a bunch of kids, all of whom are dead and are stuck in hell. And out of sheer boredom, one day they decide to rob some demons of an ice cream truck that they are using, because they think there's got to be something good inside of an ice cream truck. And it turns out that there is an angel that was stolen, and they like kidnapped the angel. And so they end up taking the angel, and they're like, hey, we'll help you get back to heaven, because that seems like it could be something fun for us. And now, over the course of the last 5 issues, these kids have been in a battle against demons of lesser and greater sorts, and trying to just figure out what it is. It's kind of honestly like the Goonies in hell. It's a great team up of young people just really trying to have some fun and live to fight another day. It's great, and it's over, so you can check it out, or at least that arc is. Wild's End, issue 5 from Boom Studios. This is War of the Worlds with animals. That's all. No, I'm just kidding. This is it's the story of a fishing village that has kind of lost its connection with a lot of the outside world, and we see a group of fisher people who are going out and go out on these boats, and while they're gone, it seems as though aliens in the form of lampposts have come and taken over their community, and now the only people who can save the day are these people who are on a boat. And they have to learn to work together and overcome some of their own obstacles, like their captain who seems like he's kind of developing a dementia-style disease, and his young grandson, who everybody thinks is like a slacker, and they're worried that he's going to take over the ship. And so we're seeing, the ship dynamics come into play and them bonding together as they try to take out these aliens. And in this issue 5, we start to really see them work towards their big whatever stand that they're going to take against these aliens is going to be. But we only have one issue left, so hopefully they can make it happen. Haunt You Till the End, issue 5 from Image Comics. Also the end of this series. We had a lot of wrap-ups in the last 2 weeks. This is the story of a man who firmly believes that there is an afterlife and wants to prove it because the world is being destroyed by climate change, and planets, islands, and continents are just completely being erased. And he's like, before I go, I want to know that there's something else coming in this world, that there's somewhere for me to go. And so he goes to the last place that, like, the place that's next to be destroyed that everybody thinks is haunted, and it's like the last place that anybody's ever heard of like ghostly sightings happening. And so he goes there with a journalist who doesn't believe and a team of mercenaries to try to make it through. And it does not go well for anyone. And what I love about it is you're supposed to be confused and like lost in the mist and all the mess of the island. And Andrea Moody captures that so well with his art. It's such a cool book. And it leaves you guessing at all times, like, is there even something there? Or is it all just like that we're destroying the world? You'll find out when you check it out. Again, wraps up now. Sins of the Salton Seas, issue 5 from AWA, also the last issue. This is that classic story of guy who is out of the game, who gets drugged back in for one last score that completely and totally blows up in his face. And in this particular one, it's his brother that drags him back in, and he's like, hey, we're going to rob this car. If we like get everything out of it, we're going to be rich. Only to find out that what's in the car is not it's not stuff, it's people, and it's a young boy, and this mobster is definitely determined to get his kid back. And we find out that the reason why is because he's not a mobster, he's a cultist, and he believes that we have to sacrifice a certain kid, his own kid, to the Salton Sea, or the world will be destroyed by an epic monster. And this book never goes the way you want it to. It never goes in the direction you think it will. And it's a fantastically crazy story that you got to check out. And it's over, so you can. Which means that in probably like a month, you'll have a $10 trade from AWA most likely. So if you want to wait for a trade, it's coming soon. Star Signs issue 5 from Image Comics. What if all the constellations in the sky suddenly were gone from the sky, and each zodiac sign found its home inside of a person? This is what you would get with star signs. Each of the signs have given powers to a certain person who is supposed to represent their sign. And now we have an epic battle going on between some of the more fiery signs and everybody else, essentially. And this young girl that is leading the charge of the rebellion essentially has the ability to freeze time, and is just trying to get everybody together so that she can maybe stop the people who want to destroy the world and maybe put all of the constellations back in the sky. We're going to see if they're able to do that. Very much like an action version of Wicked and Divine. So if you were a fan of that, but you wanted it to be more of like an action movie, Star Signs is going to be your option. We Wicked Ones, issue 5 from Scout Comics. This is, did this also end? Did it end? I don't know. Let me see. Yeah, no, we still have one more issue. Okay. We Wicked Ones is basically the combination of a superhero book and Black Magic from Greg Rucka and Nicholas Scott. This is the story of 2 women, I guess 3 women, who are 2 of who are witches, who are some of the last remaining witches in our world. Our government has continued to burn witches and to kill them off since the 16th 1692, all that time period, 17th century, I guess I should say. And these women are like the only ones left still fighting. And one of them has become an assassin and the other one has become a mother. And now they are both captured, and it is up to a superpowered former friend of theirs to kind of help save them through this. And that's where we find ourselves at the end of this, and we learn a lot about the world and these connecting pieces, and we kind of start trying to build out our potential trio of witches who can save the day. Con and On issue 4 from Ahoy Comics. If you have ever been a part of the comic industry at all in any capacity, you would probably love this book. This is essentially just the story of that. It is how the comic industry moves and how Comic-Cons have helped with that movement. And it follows a woman and a man who started when they were children, like teenagers, at the first convention they ever went to, and how they were just super fans and wanted to meet these creators and kind of talk about how maybe someday they could be creators. And now we've followed them as they've grown up and have tried to be creators, how they have become creators, how they've lost their creator status. And we've seen a lot of the dark underbelly of the comic industry and the convention industry. And one of the things that's really interesting is if you do follow this book on social media, you'll see a lot of comic creators who actually mention, like, oh, I know exactly who that story in Con and On was referencing this month. And so it's kind of cool because if you are in the industry, you can kind of see some of those things that they're actually commenting on. But if you're not, or if you don't necessarily know those things, you're just going to get a really good story. And so for fans of the comic industry and who want to see like the inner workings of it, this is actually a really good book to get some of those moments in there. I'm going to take a drink of my mimosa. Okay. That is so bubbly because there is no orange juice in there. Big Game, issue 4 from Image Comics and Mark Millar, or as I call this book, Mark Millar, Nemesis kills the Mark Millar universe. And that's exactly what's happening. If you have been following along, Mark Millar brought Nemesis back in a book called Nemesis Reloaded, relaunched the character, kind of requelled him and rebooted him, and then brought him to some of the biggest villains of his universe and said, I want to kill off all superpowered beings. And so over the last 3 issues, basically every superhero that has ever existed in a Mark Millar book of any kind, whether that's Kingsman, Jupiter's Legacy, Kick-Ass, they've all shown up. And a lot of them have gone by the wayside very, very quickly. And some of them are still existing, and they are fighting in their own way. And some of them are choosing to not fight as a part of the story. And so we are seeing, I don't want to show you any of the end because there's always big murders and big reveals. But we are seeing one more issue come out from this, and we're going to see if anybody makes it. There's like all of these superheroes. Okay, we just have to talk about this for 2 seconds. I know I'm going through this quickly, but there are all these superheroes being murdered throughout this universe. And yet when they say there's a point where they get like a notification that like, oh, we'd like to have all the current superheroes come meet on the ship, like all the superheroes go. And so you know what? A lot of the Mark Millar heroes do not think with their brains, and we're going to see how that plays out for them over the next issue. So anyway, if you want to see a really violent Mark Millar's Nemesis kills the Mark Millar universe, you should totally check out Big Game. Antarctica issue 4 from Image and the Top Cow imprint. This is the story of a girl whose father was a geoscientist, I guess, ecologist, something of that nature. We're not really sure because she doesn't really know what her dad did. And he ended up in Antarctica, and now she has spent some time learning to be an engineer and trying to get on her feet and figure out her own life. And so she ends up going to Antarctica thinking like maybe she'll find her dad who's never come home. And what she finds there instead is actually possibly the entrance to a parallel universe, a universe that is facing its own destruction and devastation, and the only way that it can be solved is by basically co-opting our world and taking over it. And she is the only person there in the deep dark of Antarctica that seems to know what's going on and is able to figure out possibly a solution. We'll find out. But if there was one place in this world that I don't want to be stuck having to deal with the problem, it's Antarctica. So that book is almost kind of terrifying, more than it needs to be. Sirens of the City, issue 4 from Boom Studios. This is your newest big Boom book. This is the story of a girl who finds herself pregnant as a teenager and in a foster home, and her foster parents kick her out. She's on the street in the 80s, and she learns that there is a big underworld to the city that she didn't know about, and it's not just drugs and gangs and things like that, but it is actually mythical creatures like sirens and succubi and incubus and so werewolves and anything else that you could imagine. And she doesn't understand why so many of them are drawn to her until she realizes there is a power that lies deep inside her that she's never been told about before, and that is going to lead to some very dark and dangerous situations. And you get, on top of that, you're getting like a Rosemary's Baby addition to the story. So while you're getting an urban fantasy, you also have this like possible like Antichrist situation coming on. So if you're looking for a really good urban fantasy mixed with that element, this is going to be your book. And it's Boom, so you know you always get some really great stuff. My favorite thing about that book is that they use splashes of color to show magic and emotion, and I love that in a black and white book. Weird Work, issue 4 from Image Comics. This is the end of this series as well. I always love this is Cops, Cults, Crooks, and Corruption is the way they advertise this. This is a strange, crazy book from Shaky Kane and Jordan Thomas, and it is all about a detective who is kind of the only detective who's still doing his job, and a woman who is paired with him, another detective, or an officer, I guess she's not a detective, who's kind of messed up a lot, and so she gets paired on this job with him, and they are trying to figure out who is the murderer and who is running drugs and who is doing all of this stuff in their town. We are slowly figuring it out over the course of the last few issues, and now in issue 4, we definitely solve the case, and we learn some big reveals and some big things, and it all goes down in the craziest way possible. So check it out. If you like Shaky Kane's art, or if you like police stories, you're going to get a great blend there. The Kryptonauts, issue 4 from Blacktooth Comics. This is League of Extraordinary Gentlemen if all of the characters were cryptids or some kind of monsters in that nature. And so the team consists of like Kid Cthulhu, La Llorona, Man Dog, Goat Man. We've had so many other ones, but we are following along as they have built their team, and they are going out to kind of solve other mysteries that only people like them could solve. So basically they're fighting against other cryptid animals, and in this one they are definitely dealing with some chupacabra violence and other things. There is a creature unleashed in the woods, and these are the only people who can stop it. And honestly, you get these crazy hyper detailed drawn scenes, like even these, like as they go into these battles, like it's honestly about the penciling in this book, because it's so in depth, and I know a lot of people are super into the cryptids right now. This is a great book to get a little bit of all of them and see them as like an action team. So Pink Elephant, issue 3 from Sumerian Comics, and this is the end of the Pink Elephant story. This is all about your classic horror slasher film kind of situation. We have a group of teenagers who are going to a cabin in the woods, and they get out there and they stop at a gas station, and the lady at the gas station is creepy, and they are obnoxious and harass the lady at the gas station, who tells them that their lives are in danger and everything's going to come to an end because they are obnoxious teenagers, and they don't believe her, and they just think she's crazy, and they go to their cabin and they do drugs, and slasher film ensues. But with art done by the people who are known for Heavy Metal Drummer. So if you want to see crazy off the wall almost like acid trip version of a slasher movie, this is going to be the one for you. And who makes it out and who doesn't, gotta read it to find out. The Madness, issue 3 from AWA. This is the story of a woman who has superpowers and doesn't use them for the right reason. She kind of, at the very beginning of issue 1, she is robbing some people to get some money for her family, and she's basically like decided she's going to settle down with this single dad and his 2 kids, and they're going to meet at this cabin in the woods, and it's going to be great. And while she's on her way out to them, the U.S. government gets a call essentially that says, hey, this woman robbed us in our country. You have to do something about it. That's your superpowered person. Deal with it. And so the superpowered people of our country deal with it, except they don't deal with it well. And so now this inner being that's always been inside of her, this imaginary friend that has also kind of been the source of her power, has lost its mind and has opened itself up to the madness within, and she is going on a revenge mission that honestly would make Mark Millar proud. This is a nice J. Michael Straczynski superhero book that is not connected to the Resistance universe, even though it's at AWA. Dust, issue 3 from Scout Comics. This is kind of your classic young adult novel. This is the story of a world where, you know, the bad people have taken over and they've built their city for the rich people, and everybody else lives in the desert in the dust, and they're dying and they don't have the food or the water or the money or anything that they need. And there's one person who could stop that, and of course it is a teenage girl who is actually the one who has the bloodline to take over ruling this world. And she's kind of just been on her own, orphaned, and running through this, stealing food for people and kind of helping them out. But now somebody has discovered who she is on both the good guy side and the bad guy side, and who is going to get there first and who is going to put her in place or kill her is something we are going to discover as we continue to make our way through the dust in this series. Katrina's Caravan. This is the issue 3, also from Scout and their Chispa line, and this is the story of the Kukui of Cancun. I love this because I have been taught my whole life that the Kukui was just the boogeyman, and they address that immediately because she's like actually this really hot woman, and she's like, I'm actually the Kukui and I'm not the boogeyman, but I am absolutely happy to destroy you and suck your blood and ruin your life. And so she essentially like meets up with all of these young touristy bro dudes that are coming to stay at like the resorts in Cancun, and she is like, oh, I can come to your parties, I can bring drugs, I can do all of these different things. And then when she gets there, she unleashes the monster on all of these awful people, and it's kind of amazing. And then the Kukui decides to broker a deal so that she can get what it is that she wants in the future. So if you're looking for a cool anthology that is just focused on all of the terrifying Latin American cultural horror stories, the Katrina's Caravan is great for that. And we do get a little bit of a ongoing story because somebody is after Katrina and her story, her caravan of dark stories that we kind of see at the end of each issue or the beginning of each issue. So very much like Ice Cream Man, where there might be some connecting threads, but you could just read it as an anthology. Count Dante, issue 3 from Scout Comics. This is the unauthorized but sort of true story of the deadliest man who ever lived. This is kind of a, like, I don't know what they call, like, not, like, the Kung Fu stories, like the spaghetti version of, like, spaghetti Western version of Kung Fu stories. But this is essentially that. This is about a guy who wanted to become good at martial arts and wanted to make himself famous out of it, and we are hearing the story from the partner that helps him build that legacy. And so we're getting these flashbacks of what it was that they did in Chicago in like the 70s to build out their amazing universe of martial arts, and all the people who actually came after them, because they weren't faking the martial arts, they were just faking their legacy. And as they did that, they kind of built up a real one. And so we started to see this made up Count Dante become a real mastermind, and people begin to actually come after him. And it's really good because you do get kind of like the cheesy story, but then you do get like, oh, and this was what we were doing, and that's why it comes off that way. The Cull, issue 3 from Image Comics. This is Kelly Thompson's newest book, and this is a crazy story. This is all about some kids who are like, hey, let's go out and let's make a movie, kind of like Super 8. Like, we're going to make this movie to prove something to ourselves, and we just need to get over this darkness that's kind of bothering us after the loss of one of the kids' brothers. And they've gone through they went through this cliffside thing at the beach, and they ended up in this alternate universe, this parallel dimension, and they're kind of experiencing all this weird stuff that comes with being there. We get to see some changes happening to each of them because they learn that the world is sentient. So the longer they're there, the more the world will like evolve to look like them, and the more they'll evolve to look like the world. And so there's a lot that comes with this, but there's also that darkness. You can't have darkness in this world. And so those who are still harboring these deep, dark feelings of things that have happened to them may or may not be able to make it. And the things that they create in this world may have a bigger impact on their world at home than they can ever even imagine. So really cool the way this is opening up, and where this is going, I have no idea, and I'm totally along for the ride. Quest, issue 3 from Image Comics. This is the story of a princess who, on her wedding day, the prince that she has grown to love and was so excited to marry is attacked by some demons and stolen away. And when she goes to the people and asks them, you know, can we send the guards? Can we go get them? They say they're not going to do it because they don't want to risk a further attack from the demons. And so she takes matters into her own hand, and her personal bodyguard and his personal bodyguard go out on an adventure to find the world of demons and hopefully bring her beloved back. And as they travel through this world, we are definitely seeing some big crazy stuff that is going to lead us to an even bigger adventure as the story unfolds. I really like this because it's just enough fantasy to keep you excited for where it's going, but it almost feels more like traditional folklore than fantasy, so it keeps you like involved in guessing. Quicksand, issue 3 from Scout Comics and our buddy Jonathan Hedrick. This is the Starship Troopers in the desert of Egypt. This is the story of a woman who, her partner was gone to go on a quest to figure out where these monsters that had attacked our Earth had come from. And when he went down into the hole that they dug to try to figure out where they came from, he never came back. And now she has shown up and is trying to solve this mystery herself, and she is building out her own team. And they are going to, as of this issue, head into this hole and see if they can't figure out what the monsters that lie beneath are. I love this plain black page, because she's like, if anybody has any prayers or thoughts that they want to say before it's too late, like, do it. And then there's just this dark page of somebody like descending into the hole and like saying their prayers. But they're going to figure out if these monsters are real, where they come from, and if the people that they love can be saved, and we're going to go along that journey with them. The Traveler's Guide to Flagoria, issue 3 from Scout Comics. This is such a fun story. This is about a guy who has the world's highest level of anxiety that I've ever seen, and he works at a newspaper kind of place. I think it's actually a newspaper. And he gets sent on the annual story of this guy who swears he's an alien from another planet and a parallel dimension, I guess I should say. And he is so upset that he has this story, but while he's on the boat with this person who's like, I'm the alien and this is where I'm from, he gets tossed aside overboard and ends up in said parallel dimension. And now he is in Flagoria, the alternative version of our world, and he is trying to find his way back, and the only person who can help him is actually the beloved of the man who is trapped in our world. And things get crazy as people try to figure out who he is, and as he tries to figure out what is going on. Will he make it home? Will he be able to help the other guy get home? Is there, you know, some way to make this all work out? We're going to find out, but I love it because it's like half Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, half like murder mystery, half, that's two halves, but, you know, there's a lot of, I was trying to think what the other one was. Almost like a Born Identity meets the Hitchhiker's Guide, because he's got to be like this spy, but he's not. Like, everybody thinks he's this spy, so there's like this spy mission to try to catch him, but he's not in any way, shape, or form a spy. So he's like just trying to get home, and everybody's like, we have to capture him because he's this dark spy. So it's kind of fun. The Hunger in the Dusk, issue 3 from IDW and their Originals imprint, and the great and wonderful G. Willow Wilson. This is the story of a group of humans and orcs who are banding together. We are bringing all of the orc tribes together as well as the humans to work with them, because there is a great and dangerous threat that has been coming to consume, like zombie vampire style, consume everybody, and nobody can figure out where they come from or why they come and how they get there. Nothing makes any sense. And so we have a group of people who are all working together, some in the north and some in the south, to solve these. And we are specifically following a young orc who is the cousin of the new king, and she is paired up with the humans and the what is called the Last Men, and they are kind of the scouting troop and the like murderous troop essentially that are going out to try to stop this before anybody else can. And she is seeing her first taste of war, but she's also the only person who can kind of help them along their mission. And so it's a really, actually really, really good story, even for those who may not be like super into fantasy. The characters are so good in this. It's kind of like how Saga, like you get so invested in the characters, you almost forget that you're in a fantasy world. This definitely has that feeling as well for people who like that. Met Cadets, issue 3 from Boom Studios. This is going to be a Netflix show, so you should run out and get it right now so that you can be caught up as that show begins. But this is the story of a group of kids who are, in fact, Met Cadets. So they are learning to work in mech suits. They work as a team. They must go out into space and fight against aliens. And of course, our young leader is the daughter of the general, and she does not listen to anybody, and she never follows orders because she thinks she knows what's best, and that always gets her team in trouble. But at the same time, also kind of always saves the day. So it's like, is it okay to be reckless when your overcompensating ego puts people in danger but also saves the day? Well, we find out, because in this issue, she and her team do get in a lot of trouble for some of the decisions she made that led to the capture of not only some of the other people in her team, but her father himself. And so now her and her team have to figure out, do we just break more rules and save the day, or do we actually play by the rules and hope for the best? Project Reese, issue 3 from Mad Cave. This is the story of a group of people who are trying to find the legendary train of gold that the Nazis had hidden during the German occupation. And they end up going to a mansion that alleged has like a path into where this train may be buried. And in the process, they discover so many other crazy experiments and things that have been happening. And now they're kind of lost in this labyrinth, trying to figure out how that they can get through with like Nazi scientists and killers on the hunt for them. And so while they try to kind of make them their way through this, we kind of get an Indiana Jones almost style adventure, but only just the action parts. Like, you're not really getting the history part or the archaeology part. You're kind of just getting those action parts where they're fighting against the team through the mazes, trying to get to the treasure at the end. But check it out if you do want a more action-packed moment like that. Kill Your Darlings, issue 2 from Image Comics and their Kids Love Chains, KLC Press. This is the story of a young girl who, when she goes to her imaginary world, she feels like she's fighting in real life against these creatures and bad guys and living this wonderful day. She's kind of the queen of the imaginary world. And in issue 1, we find out that her imaginary world has come further into her own existence than she ever thought possible. And as she is living out some moments in that, and that darkness is taking over her imaginary world, we see the darkness take over her real life too. And in issue 2, she finds herself in a mental institution, and they are trying to figure out if they can save her mind and, you know, physically from herself. And that imaginary world once again shows up and is like, hey, you're the only one that can save us, and we think we're the only ones that can save you. And so epic team up between her and her own imagination is going to lead to hopefully the saving of the world that she created. But we'll find out as the series unfolds. Hexagon Bridge, issue 2, also from Image Comics. This book took a big age leap in this issue. So in issue 1, we are following two people, a woman and a man, who are both considered like essentially archaeologists, but they're mappers, or they're cartographers. They're not archaeologists, they're cartographers, but they're mapping an alternate reality, an alternate realm that runs parallel to ours, and they are trying to figure it out. And both of them get lost in this parallel realm, and the only person who understands that completely is their daughter, who has the ability to see visions of that other world and the future and the world around her. And so in this issue, we find out that they have been creating a robot with some AI that they think could go into that world and save her parents, but they need her and her visions to kind of be connected to that AI. And so we see her very quickly age up as she trains with that robot and that AI intelligent, I guess, artificial intelligence. And they become this essentially a great power team, as they are both going to have to go into this other world very soon and see if they can save her parents. And I really like the way they're building out these characters. They're like giving us almost no hints of the world, and they're just kind of showing us like what she's thinking and what she's feeling. And so I know that when we do get this zoom out moment eventually in this story, we're gonna find out that there is all kinds of underhanded shady stuff going on that we're only hearing hints of, but she's not paying attention to because she's so like focused. And I cannot wait for that other shoe essentially to drop. The Case of the Bleeding Wall, issue 2, and this is from Dead Sky Publishing. This is the story of a woman whose job it is to investigate paranormal disturbances. And in issue 1, she takes on a brand new assistant as they go to Italy to help somebody who has a home that they will not go into ever again. And so they travel there, they go into this home, and they see that the walls inside of this house, a specific wall, I guess I should say, has the ability to bleed, and that demon things and creepy moments are happening all throughout. And they hear this story of this house, and now it is their job to do the investigating of what is going on. I love it because they're like, we don't have to like stay in the house though, right? Like it's constantly like, yeah, we'll come back and we'll investigate during the day when all the like demons are asleep for the moment. But really creepy, really great, like again, story for the holiday season, because this is all of the creepiness, and there's definitely something lurking in this house, and I cannot wait to find out what it is. I'm going to bend this back. This is not a blink. Don't freak out. This is just one of those protective covers on a glossy book. This is the Antagonist issue 2 from Godhood Comics. This is the story of the Evil family, the Evil family, I should say. And they, in issue 1, we are following a woman who has been working in a business company, like big CEO kind of thing. She's a partner. She's been waiting to be named like senior partner, and they pass her up for an intern who's like her intern. And we find out that she has some powers that she needs help controlling. And we see her husband is like a school principal, and he's kind of just like, we got to stay calm, we got to do great, we're good people, we do all these things. Issue 2 seems to be kind of a flashback possibly to a time when that wasn't necessarily the case, because we are following 2 people who are supervillains, and we see them take on all of the people who are supposed to be the great representation of superheroes for our country, and it's just like everything they stand for seems to be really wrong. Like, you're almost rooting for these villains the whole time because you're like, well, again, you're not going about it necessarily the way that I think that you should, but like at the same time, you have not said anything wrong. So like I kind of get where you're going. This is definitely one of those books where you're like, is it okay to root for the bad guy? Because the bad guys are your main characters, and again, like, you just kind of want to side with them the whole time. And I love that the tagline of this book is, because sometimes you've got to be the effing bad guy. And I'm like, you know, they make a good point about saying like that somebody's always going to be the bad guy in the situation, and America's kind of painted out who that's going to be in every situation before it ever happens. And so why not lean into that when it's necessary? Creepshow Volume 2, Issue 2 from Images Skybound imprint. This is your standard Creepshow. If you watch the show, if you've ever read any Creepshow, this is exactly what you're getting. You get an anthology that has 2 different stories in it. The first is from Michael Walsh, who you may know from Silver Coin fame. And it is the story of a young boy whose father is trying to hold it all together as a recently new single parent after the death of his mother. And the kid kind of just becomes obsessed with the TV, and a very angry, slightly abusive dad doesn't really know how to handle his kid's obsession with the TV. And the TV is there for the kid in a whole special way. And I am not going to show you or tell you anything about what that is. And then the second story is all about a girl who can speak to ghosts. And it's always been her family legacy that she can hear what they say, and that she's the one that ghosts come to, that she needs to listen to all of their problems and kind of help them feel better. And she's got all these ghosts who are just giving her just a terrible time. She can never sleep because of it. So she decides to take matters into her own hands, as you can see from this actions that she's taking here. And when she does that, she finds herself finally able to sleep. But those ghosts might not have just been filling her with unnecessary frivolous information. And sometimes when we think somebody is the problem and they are nagging us, we miss out on what the real problem is and what we are providing to that situation. And as with all Creepshow stories, she definitely gets her comeuppance in a special, beautiful way. I'm going to take another drink of this mimosa. This pile is getting so small on this side, guys. I'm so excited. Hunt for the Skinwalker, Issue 2 from Boom Studios. You can watch the documentary on this if you want to really dive into what it is. Basically, it's the story of Skinwalker Ranch, which is one of those big, giant stories of alien encounters in our country. And this is the story of a farmer who suddenly finds himself dealing with cows being slaughtered in weird ways, and possibly alien sightings of spaceships on his land. And there's so many weird, crazy things. And his wife is like, we should leave. And he's like, we're not going to leave. This is our farm. I got to take care of my animals. This is how we make our living. And she's like, what about our kids? And he's like, our kids are going to deal with it. And we kind of just see how that continues to play out for him. And this one does lead us towards that investigation that really did happen that led to the documentary and us knowing what the Skinwalker Ranch is. But this is, if you liked Blue Book, this is another one that you definitely need to jump in on for sure. Project Cryptid, Issue 2 from Ahoy Comics. This is an anthology that celebrates all of the crazy cryptid monsters of our world. And each issue has 2 stories at least. This one features a story about the chupacabra and a woodpecker. That is the ivory-billed woodpecker. I was like, what is it called? But in the first story, we see the story of the chupacabra, and it's about an old lady and 2 people that go on a vacation together to the New Mexico area. And the little old lady takes her dog, and one day when she's out walking, she is attacked by some creatures. And her little doggy tries to help protect her, and it unleashes some other animals in the area, and we get some weird, crazy stuff that happens. And then I don't want to tell you what it is. And then we have the story of the ivy-billed woodpecker, which is follows a girl whose job it is to kind of investigate some paranormal things, and she's hired by an ex-boyfriend who is into birds and more so into money. And so he has stolen this bird from its home that is known to be like one of the rare birds, but also known to be cursed. And he brings it home with him, and bad things follow. And she kind of has to do the investigation to figure out why those bad things are happening and where this bird is from and what it is. So again, cryptid fans, this is a great one, and you can pick up any of them because it is an anthology, so it doesn't really matter which one you read in which order. Bad Omens Concrete Jungle issue 2 from Sumerian. If you are a fan of the band Bad Omens, you should get this comic, because it is basically taking, like, there is a whole like 3 pages of this issue that take their song lyrics and just blend them into the story. So this is definitely one for you. If you are not a fan of Bad Omens, you are still getting a story about them. Essentially, the band actually working to stop some art thieving, or possibly doing some art thieving of their own. It kind of feels a little Ocean's 11, or Ocean's 8, I should say. Any of those where it's like, oh, we didn't do it, but like, we know who did. And then it's like, actually, they did do it, kind of thing. We're getting that. And in this issue, we're kind of seeing the fallout of them attempt to stop some people and go to kind of are in a battle now, and whether or not they're going to make it out of here is where we are at the end of this issue. We are seeing a lot of fighting and battling, but all throughout this, and like I said, you get this like big double page spread, and it continues on with their song lyrics kind of wrapped through it. It's not normally just song lyrics. There's a lot of dialogue on all the other pages, but there's definitely moments for the fans to really get excited about their songs and their stories at the same time. Junior Baker, The Righteous Baker, issue 2, and this is from a is it? Okay, yeah, Image. That's what I thought, but I didn't want to be wrong. This is all about a guy who is an investigative reporter, and he's kind of losing his mind a little bit. He's got like some like psychedelic and psychotic breakdown happening at the same time, but he has been investigating these people who really kind of like paranormally have attacked people through religion. And in this issue, he does end up investigating at a different religious organization, and he kind of has some big moments where he learns a little bit about himself. One of the things being that he is a complete and total screw up, because he doesn't show up for the moment when his girlfriend is getting an ultrasound to see the sex of their baby. And so he's kind of dealing with, oh, I'm really bad at that, but I don't want to be bad at my job. Like, I can't, if I failed there, I have to at least be good at what I'm doing, and I have to solve this murder mystery that's been going on and all these weird disappearances and stuff. And so he continues to try to go into this underworld and figure it out. But he's just having these weird hallucinatory like visions that he's not sure if they're like somehow like past drug inducing, or if they're something from what he's drinking now, or if he's really just seeing things, but these things are talking to him, and the world seems to get more and more crazy that the further into it he tries to figure it out. And this Martin Simmons style like art with the big bright like almost Matt Hollingsworth coloring really just kind of leads you down a rabbit hole that you almost like get lost in yourself. The Sickness issue 2, and this is from Uncivilized Books. This goes back and forth between 1945 and 1955, and so this is about a kid who named Daniel, and in 1945, and he keeps seeing this weird man, and every time he sees them, he starts having these also like hallucinations and these weird visions. Like he sees people's faces melting, posters coming to life, all kinds of stuff. And it's during the time when the bomb is dropped during the war, and so he's also like at this heightened thing of like really paranoid and really, really panicked, and so it just kind of furthers it along. And then in 1955, we are following a man named George whose obsession with a housewife who murdered his family consumes him. And so he keeps trying to figure it out. Like he starts researching lobotomy. He starts researching all these different things that are going along and happening. And as he's doing that, like he just kind of begins to lose himself a little bit more. And so it's kind of like, are crazy things happening in this world, or do we just kind of make ourselves sick as we dwell on them and focus on them until we kind of drive ourselves crazy? Really off the wall, like crazy, that does connect though. Issues 1 and 2 are complete, like connected. So don't think that because there's 2 different stories in there, it's anthology. There's 2 different stories going through at the same time. It's not even like a backstory and a friend story. It's all blended together and it's going to connect. Mom Breaks the Internet, issue 1 from Scout Comics. This is for all of you fans of Bad Mother from AWA. This is your next big book like that. This is about a girl who works as, she's kind of leading a rebellion. The world doesn't allow the internet at all anymore, and people can't do any streaming, or they can't do any like publicity. You can't do anything. You can't even post on social media. And she's kind of rebelling against that and leading all these protests. Meanwhile, her mom is like the person who invented all of the greatest things on the internet and that makes the internet work. And when her mom gets let go from her job and she's very angry, she comes home and she's like trying to figure out like what's going on with her daughter and why everything is just terrible. And some stuff happens and mom's like, all right, it's time for mom to step in and handle all of this, and it is going to be great to watch her do that. So again, if you're a fan of Bad Mother from AWA, you gotta check out Mom Breaks the Internet, because we're gonna get a lot of that from there as well. Knights, issue 1 from Image Comics. This is an oversized issue. And it does have a soundtrack. This is one of those books that if you want to play the soundtrack, they actually give you the names of the songs too, so you can look it up, and the bands, you can look it up on whatever playing thing you like, but it does have a link to it too. But this is the story of a kid who loses his family, and so he goes to live with his cousin. And when he gets there, he finds out that this town has its own vampire. And they're like, because every town has a vampire, duh. And he's like, ooh, like, should I be scared? And everybody's like, you should totally be afraid. And they like start teasing him, only to find out like 4 pages in that the vampire is actually roommates with his cousin. And so this is the story of this young boy kind of growing up and growing into himself. It's a coming of age story, except he's doing it not only like with a cousin who is very heavily involved in drugs and underhanded money, like underground dealings and things like that, but also with a vampire, literally living aside from him, a vampire who is a teenager who's always going to be that. Honestly, if you made an adult version of a Miyazaki film, I feel like this might be what it was. This feels like a live action adult version of that, because we do see way more mature concepts in it, but it does still have that like, oh, the town all has like one magical person, and we all need to connect, and we need to learn like who we are, and we need to learn these lessons and grow as we go. And so you kind of get all of that, but in more of an adult package. It's really cute. It's really fun. And I think that this is going to be one of those series that where by the time we get to issue 2 and 3, it's going to be like, why isn't everybody just reading this book? So check it out. And it's oversized. Operation Sunshine, issue 1 from Dark Horse Comics. This is also a vampire story. This is the story of vampires versus like the original vampires, like the made vampires versus the ones who were just born as vampires. And we follow one specifically who is kind of trying to stay out of the way of everybody. She just kind of likes to get do vampire drugs essentially, and be that lovable loser who's not really like accomplishing much. And she ends up becoming friends with a guy who is just recently turned into a vampire, and he just wants to put his head down and do his job. And they both find themselves trapped in the middle of a major conspiracy that's going on, in this thing that has to do with all this blood being tainted, and a big underground market and bad things coming from the original vampires. So this one's going to be a lot of fun, I think, in the end, in like the complete opposite way of Knights. Simon Says, issue 1 from Blood Moon Comics. Let's get real creepy and dark when we get to Halloween. Or just because we're reading Blood Moon, and that's what happens. This is the story of a guy who hears voices in his head that tell him what to do. And of course, what do those voices tell him to do other than completely and totally murdering people? And this gets, it's dark and creepy. I was trying to see if I could find one of the dark, creepy pages, but it's dark and creepy, and this man is like the most, like, it's like a classic slasher movie, but with all the like psychological twists and turns of somebody who's hearing the voices in his head and is like, no, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that, and then immediately, like, it's just Michael Myersing his way through a town because he can't control it. So, again, great slasher book for the horror week that it is, if you want to check that one out. Signal 29 from Blood Moon Comics. This is also great for the week. Blood Moon is so good at horror, let's be honest. This is about two paramedics in New Orleans who get a call that they need to go to a like CD motel because this lady is called. They get there and they're like, oh, it's just kind of a druggie, and like, I don't really know, like, if this is going to be much that we have to do. And she's like, no, you have to come in. This guy's been, like, this guy just died. And they're like, just died? It looks like this guy's been dead for forever. And then we get some really cool, I'm going to just say, like, Resident Evil almost zombie story kind of telling. Like, we get some, they're doing some stuff, and things get crazy really fast. I'm going to show you just a little bit of that craziness. But this is your, like, action zombie flick that you need for this time of year. Your 28 Days Later, your Resident Evil, all of that. If you are looking for some good zombie violence, that's going to have all those little layers that you like from those kinds of shows and movies, definitely pick up Signal 29. Destiny Gate, issue 1 from Image in the Top Cow imprint. This is the story of a man who really is down on his luck. He feels like his life is awful and terrible, and he doesn't really know what's going on, and he gets on a train on his way to go home, except that train does not take him home. It takes him to hell. Essentially his own personal hell, and he has to kind of figure out, is he alive, is he dead, does he deserve to be here, is there any way out of this, or has he met his destiny at the gate, and is this the end for him? And this is going to really unleash a crazy adventure through the depths of hell, and I cannot wait to see all of that. I don't want to show you too much of this one because all the twists and turns of where he goes are just kind of like Dante Seven Circles of Hell. A Haunted Girl, issue 1 from Image and the Syzygy imprint. Thank you. I never get that right.
It's actually a comic character.
Is it?
Syzygy is a comic character. I forget what, but I saw it the other day and I was like, oh, it's like an old school, like 70s.
Okay.
Character.
That's cool.
Yeah.
This is the story of a 16-year-old girl who experiences some very heavy anxiety and depression throughout her life. And after a couple of different things that happen to her, she ends up going into an institution and kind of living her life there. She's gets to old, like 16 or whatever, and they're like, oh, it seems like you're kind of understanding yourself, you're doing a little bit better, like, we'll let you go. And so she ends up going home, and, like, her first day of school is terrible and awful as per usual in these kinds of situations. And then suddenly she starts to have a lot of her crazy hallucinations again. And we find out as readers that there is way more to it. I'm just going to show you this. There is way more to it than even she knows. And we are going to see whether she can not only overcome these dark, creepy visions that she's having, but also can she save us and save the entire world, because that is what she has to do. But she, like, doesn't even want to live. She doesn't want to be a part of our world. She just wants to get out of here because of all of this darkness that's gripping her, and yet she is the only one that can save us. Cyberpunk 2077 XOXO. This is issue 1. This is if you are a fan of the Cyberpunk video game, obviously you need to read this, but this one's actually, I don't play video games, and you all know that. So I don't know anything about the cyberpunk games. But I do know that this story was actually really fun because it's just somebody trying to figure out what love is. And the story is actually like, what is love? Is it a finger brushing against your hip? Is it eyes, two pair locked for a split second, ears bathing in one looped tune? And it just goes through all these like beautiful things about what love is. And then it's like, no, is love this? And it goes through all the dark and hateful parts of love, like the things that make us crazy and want to like hurt people. And then it goes through like, and then it boils it down, and it's like, is it just fingers and hands and eyes? And it just kind of is doing all of that. Meanwhile, there's like this whole war and battle going on in the background between these like rivaling gangs and stuff. It's actually like poetry on top of a video game story, and it was super surprising to me, honestly, to see that that's the direction they went with that. But you definitely should check out this book if you're a fan of cyberpunk. And honestly, even if you aren't, I don't know what the rest of the series will be like, but this first issue was really cool. Fear the Funhouse Toy Box of Terrors issue 1 from Archie Comics and our buddy Timmy Heeg. This is who runs Arsenal Comics. This is one of your annual horror books that comes out, during the great and wonderful time of the year that it is. And this is the story of a girl who has a doll, and she loves her doll, and it's her best friend. And Archie starts to pay attention to her, and then Veronica gets mad about it. So Veronica causes her doll to get broken by Moose. And then we'd flash to a different story where we see Midge want to learn how to make more friends, and Midge ends up getting a doll called Cheryl, which is essentially the Megan story, and we get to see how that movie would play out. It's kind of like Megan meets Child's Play. And then we kind of go back and forth to the story that we kind of saw before. We see a little bit more of who could be behind making all these mysterious dolls. We get to see some really dark, creepy monster movies come to life in the Archie world, which I always love at this time of year. So if you are a fan of Archie and you're a fan of horror movies, this is just a great one to pick up. Toy Box of Terror, and congratulations to our friend Timmy Heeg on his big writing debut with Archie. The Swallower of Shades, a Splatter Western one-shot. So Splatter and Western is going to be making 4 one-shots, and they are from Dead Sky Publishing, and this particular one is a swallower of shades. Is that what I said? Yes. Yes. Shades. I almost said swords because that was the word that I was thinking. Because that's what the story is about, essentially. This is also from our buddy Jay and Brant, who did Swamp Dogs. But this is the story of a guy who runs a carnival, like the crazy like Cirque du Freak kind of things, and he ends up taking on a bet, and he wins a coffin essentially that has a mummy in it. And we learn very quickly that the thing is cursed, and that if he is not returned to his original sarcophagus, he will kill one person every night until he is. And people start to die, and then the sheriff comes in and is like, oh, I bet it was this guy, and he starts trying to go after the strong man, and we see how that does not work out for anybody, and we just see this mummy ravage this circus, and things get dark and creepy and crazy. And if, again, you're looking for a good horror book for the week, this is a one-shot. You can jump in right here, just read this one, and have a crazy Cirque du Freak moment. and you can hand it over to Matt. You have to fight him for it now. Granite, huh?
There's only one?
No, I think there's still one or two left. Granite State Punk, Breaking Edge from Scout Comics. This is also a one-shot. Granite State Punk has had a previous one-shot that introduced our character and his life dealing with the fact that he just got witchcraft and magical powers and never knew that his parents had them. And at the end of the previous one-shot, he was like, oh, I'm going to have... he had to go to jail because of all of these, like, skulls that were found beneath his house and all of this crazy stuff that happened. And in this one, he's back out and he's going to a show and he talks about how punk music is amazing and how it's great and wonderful and how he just wants to like have a full life of anarchy. And now he's got this witchcraft to deal with. And so he ends up finding his uncle and is hoping his uncle will help teach him how to be a witch and do these things. But instead, his uncle opens up the grave of Goody Cole, a woman who was continuously tried and eventually killed for being a witch in New Hampshire in the old days. And what happens does not actually help him in any way, shape, or form. I really wish they would just launch this into a full series. They definitely leave it open at the end of every one shot, and I wish instead of just being one shots, they would just give us a series, because I love this character, and I love his attitude and his ideas, because he's like, I don't want to, like, I'm not in for, like, you know, society and all of the rules, but like also like you can't hurt people. Like that's not cool. That's not punk. And so I love this character, and I wish that we could get a full series out of it. Beautiful Soldiers issue 1, also from Scout. This is a nonstop, which means we are going to get this one issue, and then we are going to pop directly into a trade paperback. But this is the story of 4 women who are elementally trained to fight against supernatural creatures. They make a lot of jokes about being kind of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer at the very beginning. And their headmistress, who has been raising them and teaching them how to do all this, tells them that there is something dark coming for them that they are not prepared for. And then we see exactly what that is, which is that this evil queen has basically trained 4 men to come in and take over as the armed guards and leaders of the elementals in an alternate planet realm type place. And now they are coming to Earth to try to take over our world. And the only people who can stop it are these 4 women who are going to have to battle against these men. And we are already seeing that one of them might be having visions of the other and vice versa. So big world, big universe already set up in here, and a lot of detail about each character given to us. So it's going to be easy to jump into a nonstop, but this will be a great way to see if it's something for you by checking out that one issue. Bite-Sized Tales of Terror from Scout. This is also a one-shot, and this is, oh my gosh, what is his name? John Clark. Thank you. This is John Clark doing a little anthology for the season. We've had a couple of other John Clark horror books. The very first one is about a guy who has found like the girl that is the girl of his dreams, and he loves everything about their relationship. And one day when they are in bed, he gets up to go to the bathroom and he bumps into a wall and he sees some blood on his arm and he thinks, oh my god, I cut myself on the wall, and begins to find out that that is not the case, and there is a darkness to the woman who he has fallen for, and we see how that works out for him, and it is very crazy. And then the next story in the book is about a woman who tells her husband that aliens exist, and he doesn't believe her, and he keeps calling her crazy and becomes very abusive to her. And so she takes matters into her own hands as a way to get to her aliens and away from her husband. And you can't really be too mad about it. And then the last one is a story about a woman who works for a design company, and one of her scientists ends up creating a perfume that can activate your pheromones and make men fall in love with you even more so. And that doesn't go well for anybody involved. These are all dark, crazy stories that escalate insanely quickly, but perfect for Halloween reads. Hack Slash Back to School issue 1 from Image Comics, and this is by the great Zoe Thorogood, who is the rising star of the year. You definitely need to check out all of Zoe's amazing art and stories. And honestly, this is the first Hack Slash story that I was like, I want to read Hack Slash. Like, it really worked. It did a great job because it took, it explained everything about the Hack Slash universe, but it took it back, and we see our young character of Hack having to, realizing that there are all of these terrible slashers out there, and she's kind of feels like she's the only one who can stop them, but she learns very quickly that that is not true, that there is actually a entire school of people who are training to do just that, and she gets to join up with them and enroll at this school for people like her who can stop evil serial killers and things in the world. And so you kind of get, Something is Killing the Children meets a Harry Potter or Buffy universe, and it's so fantastic. And I'm so in. I already love these characters, and I never knew that I always needed this, and I'm so stoked to see the rest of it. I think it's a 4-part series. The Man from Maybe, issue 1. This is from Oni Press and Shaky Kane. And this is the story about, this is an Old West meets space story. So it's all about that guy who comes from who knows where to save the day when a group of people suddenly are attacking everybody in the Old West. And he comes in and he fights as these like alien creatures are losing their minds. This is also written by Jordan Thomas, so if you were a fan of weird work, this is now them doing a sci-fi western as opposed to like a sci-fi police drama. So you're really getting like a really cool story. Honestly, I definitely fell into this one a lot faster than I did weird work. But because it does have that like, ooh, I've got to get revenge on these people like who hurt my parents, and I'm gonna team up with the gruff guy who's the old cowboy, but this old cowboy is actually like a guy who's like not really that old and possibly like spacey. So a lot of fun, definitely weird, off the wall, as you would expect from Jordan Thomas and Shaky Kane. Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, from IDW. This is also in issue 1. This has been the book that everybody was excited about this week on all of like my social media, and I definitely can see why. This is the story of a cute little town that's filled with animals, and everything's perfect, and nobody struggles with anything in this world at all. They're all so happy, and our main character is Sam, who runs the local hardware store and is everybody's fan favorite, who just spends some time just helping everybody along the way. And then we find out that Sam takes some weekly or monthly trips to the city, in which Sam has a completely different life. Sam, the sweet, lovable bear who runs the happiness of the town, is actually a psychotic murderer. And we are going to see how that plays out for Sam, who's always had a set of rules, but now finds their rules completely turned upside down. Honestly, this is Dexter with animals. And I cannot wait to see how that plays out. Like, literally, this just read like the first Dexter book, or like the first season of the show, the first couple episodes of the show, I guess, where we see like this serial killer who has these rules suddenly find that whole world turned upside down. But it's adorable at the same time. So it has been a fan favorite this week, and I definitely can see why you're not gonna want to miss that one for sure. American Psycho issue 1 from Sumerian. For those who love the movie, this is definitely going to be a book that you have to pick up. We are following, I can't show you a lot of it. I can show you this one page, as he meets a woman in an alley. And if you've ever seen American Psycho, when he's like, hey, I'd like to take you home and talk to you about my records and things, it doesn't really work out so well. And I can't show you most of the rest of the book because of that. So, look here, we can go to this page. Where we see a woman in a bar who also is making some bad choices. And if you've seen American Psycho, it's all about a guy who is a psychopath and kills people, and the women who continuously fall for it, essentially. So if you wanted to go a little further back in that story and see like how that got started and how we see like this like detective like kind of investigating it, you're going to just get a little bit more of that. Headless Horseman, issue 1 from Dark Horse. I say issue 1, it's a one-shot. This is your horror anthology for the holiday season from them. It's got 4 or 5 stories in there. The first one is a story about a kid that gets sucked into a video game, and finds out that he is selfish and makes terrible decisions, and that doesn't work out for him. The second story is all about a guy who is trying to stalk a young child and the dangers of being a young child on Halloween night. Except for sometimes that is not actually the case, and the hunter and the prey are not necessarily what we think they are. And then there's this third story, which is actually probably my favorite, about a bunch of kids who go trick-or-treating with the new kid in class, and they think that it's terrible that the new kid brought his mom, only to find out that there's a reason, and it's dark and it's creepy, and Halloween does not work out the way any of them plan. And then there is a story about a girl who gets a chance to be on a writer's retreat, and she learns that your muse is not ever necessarily what you expect it to be. And then the last story is about a bunch of kids who go to a haunted house, and if you can make it through the haunted house without giving up, you win a prize. And the haunted house, they're all dressed like monsters. The haunted house is actually just what it's like to live in our world right now. And these kids make it through, and I love it. And yes, you just need to read the last one for sure, Matt. Fungi, issue 1 from Scout Comics. I almost want to switch places with you and let you tell everybody about this, because this has been like Matt's pick of the week. You were so excited about this book, but this is Samurai Who Are Mushrooms. Hence the fungi. I'm like, that was pretty much how to say.
Their universe.
And and there's like a whole universe. Like everybody in here is a mushroom of a different kind, and you get the whole classic like Ronin story of having to take on and team up with the people and avenge people and all the typical Ronin story, except now you get it from the point of view of a world of mushrooms. And I just really like the artwork and the design of all of them. Like it's so beautifully serious for such a ridiculously designed concept. Like the guy it's called fungi, like feng shui, and like fungi, samurai. The mushroom, and samurai, like it's amazing and wonderful, and the pun doesn't actually like take away from the seriousness of the story in any way, shape, or form. You gotta check it out. If you're a fan of samurai stories or mushrooms, this is the book for you.
And we're very close to sold out.
And we are. I think we have this copy and the one that Matt had at the front of the counter. Up next is the subgenre, and I'm looking at this because it's hard to read. Issue 1 from Dark Horse, and this is a new Matt Kent book, and this is the this is kind of like I love plot holes right now. This is kind of like your story like that, where you're gonna find somebody who is living in like the literary world kind of becomes a thing. And it starts out with a guy who's a detective, and he's in a world where like everything is digital. AI is the creation, and there is a comic company that makes movies and films and all kinds of merchandise and everything, and they kind of run the world because they have the most money. And a woman is accused of murdering some people by this company, but it turns out that she actually just discovered that they don't actually write any of their material, and they just use AI to do it all. And she's trying to like get back to real books and stop this like essentially book ban that's taken over the entire world, where only AI is allowed. And so they team up together, and when they get to this like place, they find out that there are all of these real books that this cult has been hiding, and all of the books seem to contain him in some way. And this opens up wherever our universe is going to take us, and just kind of really explodes very quickly, and we'll see where that goes. All right, picks of the week. Picks of the 2 weeks. Up first is Fish Flies, issue 2 from Image Comics and Jeff Lemire. Honestly, I just think Fish Flies as a series is a pick. I know it's Matt's pick if you come into our store, but this is the story of a little kid who's known for being the snotty kid in class, and nobody wants to hang out with them. And they end up meeting somebody who is essentially a murderer, who has turned into a giant bug. And they're like, hey, nobody would like you because nobody likes bugs, but it's okay because nobody likes me, so we can be friends. And so this kid gets a friend, and it's kind of almost like Iron Giant at that point, where like the kid teams up with this weird creature that it finds. But you've got people who are trying to solve the murder. You've got this man trying to figure out how he became a bug and everything that's wrong with him. And you've got this kid who really is like, we need to both learn to be better people, and maybe people will like us. But until then, maybe we can just be friends together. And it's absolutely beautiful. You should 100% read this book. Swan Songs, issue 4 from Image Comics and W. Maxwell Prince. We always talk about Ice Cream Man and how W. Maxwell Prince plays with the medium in the most amazing way. This is that for Swan Songs. This is the story of a guy who's in prison, and he's obsessed with Mad Libs, and it's his time to get out of prison. And on his way out, the officer who's always been protecting him, like, and kind of looking over him while he was there, gives him a new thing of Mad Libs to take home with him. And he's like, wow, these are very specific because they're like actually just what's happening in the story, like if you fill in the blanks. And this is that classic, oh, he gets out, but his brother, who's the criminal, takes him in. And now the brother's like, we're going to do a job and you're going to be involved with it. And he's like, I don't want to do that. I just got out of prison. And he's like, well, I don't care what you want. You owe me because I got shot for you that one time. And so he gets, finagled into doing this job with his brother and his friends. But he still has these Mad Libs, and every few pages, every new instance, he has them. And my favorite thing, honestly, is that the whole issue is about the choices we make and how we always have the ability to make the choice. And W. Maxwell Prince gives us a Mad Lib for us to fill out about where the story should go and how to make the choices ourselves. Midlife, or How to Be a Hero at 50, issue 1 from Image Comics and Brian Bucoletto. This is the story of a kid who, as a child, he wanted to be, he knew he had to be a firefighter because his dad was a firefighter and he was kind of the hero. And so in the 90s, him and his friends were all sitting around talking incorrectly about Batman and Robin being the end of superhero films. And I love having that conversation. That's another conversation I'll have with you in the store about how it was actually a great movie. But as we get to 2023, we find out that he's a firefighter, and he kind of feels really down on his luck because all he ever actually does is push papers. He's the guy that does all the audits and fills everything out because he's actually afraid of fire, and he's never actually done anything. And now he's hitting the age of 50, and his life is kind of unfolding around him, and he's having that midlife crisis. And he's like, maybe I have to do something with my life. Maybe I need to become a better person. And it's just a fantastic story. Brian Bucoletto is so good at giving us those stories of those reluctant heroes who are thrown into it in ways that they don't want to be. And this is going to be another great version of that. The Devil That Wears My Face, issue 1 from Mad K. I cannot pitch this better than the creative team themselves did, which was to say this is The Exorcist meets Face Off. Because that is 100% the best way to describe it. We open up a story where a person has been possessed, and nobody in the Vatican's whole entire line of people can actually exorcise this demon. So they send the Golden Boy, who they're actually just trying to get rid of because he is the prodigy of the current pope who is dying. And they're like, ooh, this will get him out of the way. And so they send him away. And he gets there, and he is very quickly met with a lot of darkness and things that he can't necessarily take out himself. And, it leads to some things that lead us to some face-off, which is going to be awesome. I got to hear David Pepose and Alex Cormack talk about this book and where it's going, and they did so much research that they did not intend to originally do on the Spanish Inquisition, which is the time period it's set in, and exorcism and all this stuff, and I just cannot wait to see where this book goes. It's going to be great. And lastly, pick of the week was the Wasted Space Omnibus. Came out from Vault Comics, and it is so incredibly beautiful. Not only is this a fantastic story if you've never read it, but you get some gorgeous Hayden Sherman art, and then I'm going to hopefully be able to find the best page in here to show you very quickly. But This is the story of a guy who is known as the voice of the creator, and the creator convinces him to tell the entire world to vote for a certain politician who ends up bringing about hatred and awfulness to the world, and he feels like that's why, like, he turns his back on the creator and is like, this is why we shouldn't put our faith in these kinds of things, and then gets basically told that it's up to him to reset the world and bring balance to it by destroying the creator. So him and a woman who is known as the vision, essentially, of God, go on a mission to kill the creator together. And I'm never going to find this page, so I'm just going to show you any amazing Hayden Sherman art page that's in here, because there's always so many. I just absolutely love Hayden Sherman's paneling, and he had there's a page where he shows multiverses, and I wish I could find that page because it's a double page spread that is just incredibly gorgeous. Honestly, if you are here in Bradenton, just come in and flip through this, because you just have to absolutely see every single page in this book. Haha, there it is. You need to see this incredible book. Come flip through it, check it out, and just marvel at Hayden Sherman's great art. And this is written by Michael Morrissey, who you know from the Barbaric series. So you should definitely grab this and just marvel at its beauty, and then read it, because it's fantastic. I read the whole thing in one plane ride home. So it can be done. I know that was a big flex, but you should not read it that quickly. You should take your time and enjoy it, because it's so good. All right, other books in stock. We have House of Slaughter 18 from Boom Studios, the continuation of the newest arc of House of Slaughter. Dwellings issue 2 from Oni Press. If you like the old classic Harvey comics like Casper and things like that, this is that, but very demonic and creepy. My Little Ponies Classics Reimagined. This is the issue 2 of them retelling the story of the Wizard of Oz through the My Little Pony world. Damn Them All issue 9 from Boom Studios. Here Comes Calico issue 6. This is the story of a man who is trying to stop terrible people from harming animals. The Forge issue 5. A group of people, of militant soldier women who are protecting the queen in the best way possible. Comic book trivia from Blood Moon Comics. This is actually literally a trivia thing, so if you are looking for some fun ways to play trivia with your friends, that's great. Welcome to Riverdale issue 1 from the Chilling Adventures line of Archie Comics. Another great Archie horror story for the season. Saint Seiya, Knights of the Zodiac from Ablaze. If you are a fan of manga, this is a forward-reading comic that is very, very much a manga story for, and very big lore very immediately. Boris Karloff's Gold Key Mysteries. Matt, we were told this was actually new stories, though, right?
It's new stories.
New stories.
I think it's a Frank Villa cover.
It is, and it's beautiful.
And it's anthology.
Yeah.
I thought we were out.
No, I had one hiding. The Alternates, issue 2. This is from the World of Minor Threats. This is a spin-off of that Patton Oswalt story that came out earlier this year. Batman White Knight, Presents Generation Joker, issue 5. Avengers Inc. issue 2. I love those action figure variants. Catwoman, issue 58. Daredevil issue 2 is a part of the new Daredevil series, not by Chip Zdarsky for the first time in like 4 years. Hot Girl issue 4 is a part of your Dawn of DC. The Flash, this is a Jay Garrick special. It's super cute. I love it. The Ghost Rider issue 19. Green Lantern War Journal issue 2. I've heard that even if you're not on the Green Lantern train right now, that you should jump in on the War Journal. Harley Quinn, Black, White, and Redder issue 4. This has a Zoe Thorogood, a Kyle Starks, and a Hayden Sherman story in there. So all of my favorites. Moon Knight issue 28, as we are moving towards the potential last days of Moon Knight. Nightwing issue 107, and this cute Chrissy Zulo cover. If you're not picking up the Trick or Treat variant, you're missing out on cuteness. The Sensational She-Hulk issue 1, still Rainbow Rowell writing it, even though we've got a new moniker, and Scotty Young on this cover. Spine-tingling Spider-Man issue 1. There was a 0 issue. Now the series itself has started, and this is Scotty Young cover. Miles Morales Spider-Man issue 11. Dawn of DC's Superman issue 7. Star Wars, issue 39. Still part of the Dark Droid stuff. Obi-Wan Kenobi, issue 2. These are your Obi-Wan Kenobi show books. Astonishing Iceman, issue 3, as a part of your Fall of X. Dawn of DC's Titans, issue 4. I love that they put the label so you know which ones connect to that story arc. The Walking Dead Deluxe. This is the color reprint of issue 74. Time Before Time, issue 28. Star Trek's Halloween, issue 3. The only time you should say Halloween instead of Halloween. Scarlet Witch, issue 9. I love that Steve Orlando story. Rivers of London, Here Be Dragons, issue 4. Robotech Rick Hunter, issue 2. Sandman Nightmare Country, issue 5 of the Glass House story arc. I found it. I did not sell out of Justice League versus Godzilla versus King Kong, issue 1. Very excited. Invincible Iron Man, issue 11. Fables, issue 160. It's not free. You have to pay for it. I know there was that whole public domain thing. You actually do have to buy that issue. Dawn of DC's Cyborg, issue 4. Coda is back with the new volume, issue 2. City Boy, issue 5. And I have heard from everybody reading it that is the DC book to be on right now. And then trades in stock. We've got volume 2 of I Hate This Place, which is issues 6 through 10. We've got Black Friday in on our I wanted to bring this one as a fun book that's on our Halloween thing right now with zombies on Black Friday. Get you really ready for the holiday season. Follow volume 1 of Creep Show in stock right now. And of course, the return of Bat City fan favorite, The Autumnal. We do have them back in stock. We know that they won't last long, so come get yours immediately because you need to read this book before it's gone, because it's the best. That's it. We got all those books in stock. There's a ton of books coming out this week. There's a lot coming to Bat City happening. Most importantly, don't forget, this Saturday, October 28th from 11 to 5 is Batastic Halloween. Free trick-or-read comics, free candy. Wear your costumes. Come have fun. We're going to have a big sale, 31% off a whole bunch of stuff in honor of Halloween. We're going to have some creators out here. Come hang out with us. We'll see you there. It's going to be fun. Until then, hopefully we'll see you for New Comic Book Day this Wednesday. And as always, happy reading. Bye, everyone.